Welcome to the Business Success Strategies with Adrian McLean. This is a 30-minute interview with successful business people who have been able to achieve amazing results with growing a business. Business Success Strategies is proudly sponsored by the Speakers Practice and adrianmclean.com, helping business owners with marketing and promotions with a specialty with public speaking. Enjoy today's Business Success Strategies interview.
Welcome to the Speakers Practice Business Success Strategies interview. Hi, I'm Adrian McLean. The Speakers Practice helps professionals with business building and promotional tools to get more clients. We are thrilled to have Ben Baker from Your Brand Marketing join us today. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Adrian. How are you?
Oh, really great. Thanks for being with us.
It's great. It's wonderful that we can do this across the pond. I'm up here in Canada. You're down in Sydney. It's wonderful that we have these conversations.
Oh, it is. It's the thrills that the internet bring with us.
Exactly.
So, Ben, I've got here that you work with companies to understand their unique mission, vision, and goals.
Yeah, it's something I've been dabbling around for 25 years now. I've been in the communication and branding game for about 25 years. I started off in direct mail about 25 years ago. We killed a lot of trees. We put a lot of paper on people's doorsteps. But the question always was, before you go ahead to do marketing, what's the brand?
Yeah.
What differentiates you? What makes you different? What makes you unique? Why should people care about you?
Yeah.
And what's going to be the right people that actually want to get up, understand what you're all about, and actually spend money with you? So I've always been from the branding point of view of understanding the brand first and then marketing, and which is, is probably the right way to do things.
Absolutely. And that's our topic for today, how to create a powerful brand.
Well, and brands are, and what people need to understand, there's corporate brands and there's personal brands. And we can dabble into both. It all depends on where your audience is. I'm assuming it's more businesses than personal, but the thought processes go up to both. Your brand is not a color scheme. Your brand is not a logo. All that is an avatar.
Yeah.
Your brand is who you are day after day after day, and how people view you when you're not in the room to defend yourself.
Oh, that's a biggie.
Yeah, and it takes time. It takes consistency.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to our first question. So, what
Sure.
are some of the challenges faced with building a brand?
The biggest challenge I find in building a brand is understanding, first of all, who you are, and second of all, of who you serve. Most people think that, everybody who's got a heartbeat and a Visa card is my client. There's 7.5 billion people in the world. I will guarantee you the vast majority of those people will never be your client. Even Coca-Cola doesn't have 100% market share, nor does Visa, nor does any of the, think of any Adidas, anybody that you can think of doesn't have 100% market share. There are people that will never buy from you. In fact, the majority of people will probably never buy from you. And that's good to know. It's better to focus on the people that will buy from you and understand why they buy from you. What makes you valuable to them? What problems do you solve for them? How do you keep them from tearing their hair out? How do you make their lives easier? And then communicate with those people in a way that they understand, they're compelled to action with. And that's probably the biggest challenge of any brand, is getting people to understand that not everybody with a heartbeat and a Visa card is their client. They really need to focus in on who are the people that they serve and how do they serve them? And why should those people care?
And it's not always that easy to go through that analysis to work out those things. So what's the process that you recommend to come up with that?
Well, I think the first thing that people need to do is sit there going, why did we get into business in the first place? What was the genesis? What was the thing that got you to get up in the morning and say, you know what, we got to create a company that does this?
Yes.
And the question is, what is that? Because a lot of companies, as they grow, their mission, their vision, their values change. Their reason for being changes. How they evolve change. And you need to go back to what is the core and say, is that still relevant? Because maybe you're telling the original brand story of who you were, and you're not that people anymore. Brands shift, brands change, companies evolve. And you need to go back to your original brand story of why did you come into being, and sit there and say, is that still relevant? So that's really where I tell people to go is to sit there and say, what did you originally come into business to be? Who are the people that you want to serve, and what did you want to do for these people? And that really leads to a series of questions, because the next question is that still relevant? And the question is, I don't know. Then we need to start doing a lot of research to sit there and go, okay, who are your customers today? What do you do for them? What differentiates you in the marketplace? What makes you valuable? What are the processes that you have that are unique to you? What are the things that your people do inside your company that make you valuable? Because your people are a key component of your brand. They're the ambassadors of the brand. They're the ones who are providing the customer experience. They're the ones who are telling your brand story for you. And if everybody isn't on board, if everybody doesn't understand the brand story, if everybody inside the story doesn't believe in what the company is all about and what you do, then you'll never get your customers to understand it.
Can you go into the details a bit about what a brand story is?
Sure. Your brand story is, it's where you came from, where are you today, and where are you going? It's that story that you tell. It's that once upon a time that every company has that says, you know what, this is where we started off as a brand. This is the genesis. This is why we got into business. And here's where we are today. And here's the things that got us here. Here's the challenges that we went through. Here's the successes that we have. And this is what brought us to today. And today, this is what we do. This is what makes us valuable. These are the things that we do. These are the problems that we solve. These are the customers we solve it for. These are why our customers love us. And by the way, here's where we're going as a company. So it's that evolution and being able to tell that. The challenge is most people have a mission and vision statement that's written on a board somewhere, or it's 6 pithy words that are on a letterhead, but it's never lived. And if it's not lived by everybody, if people can't recall it and retell their brand story, then they'll never live it. And that way, if you have a story that people can internalize, people can say, this is what the story means to me, and this is how I fit into the brand, and this is why I'm valuable to this company, and this is how I help the company succeed because I understand the story. They're going to be far more engaged, and they're going to want to grow with the company. They're going to become better brand ambassadors. They're going to create better loyalty of customers, and they're going to provide a better customer experience. So that's why you do a brand story, because everybody can retell it. Everybody can recall it. We're hardwired for stories. Human beings are hardwired to listen to stories, to champion stories, and retell stories. 1 or 2 words, are we going to get them right? Are we going to get the right phrase? Are we going to remember the exact wording? No, but it doesn't matter. As long as we understand the essence of the story and we can see the clear vision, we're going to internalize it and we're going to make it part of our own.
And that sort of fits into the why that Simon Sinek talks about, doesn't it?
Exactly. The why is at the center. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen the Simon Sinek TED Talk, starts with why. Your why is at the center of everything you do. Why do we do what we do? Okay, we have a bunch of processes, but the question is, why do we do them? When you can understand the why behind the what, and you can explain that, whether it's as a CEO or a CFO or a leader, at the vice president level, or just a leader of a team, if you can explain to people why you do what you do, they're going to buy in a lot better than instead of saying, well, this is what we need done. Well, why? Why do we do this? And, there's a lot of people today getting frustrated because the Gen Zs and the millennials are coming on board and they're saying, well, why do we do this?
Yes.
You need to have an answer for that, because they need to understand the reason why they're doing what they do in order to be able to do it better and to be able to get on board and to get behind it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's so true. Okay, so I think you've already answered this question, but is the branding all about the colours and the images and what they're wearing?
Well, it's an avatar.
Yeah.
The colors in the logo are an avatar. It's a reminder. The swoosh is not Nike. The swoosh is not Nike's brand. The three lines, one beside each other, is not Adidas. The Coca-Cola logo is not Coca-Cola. It's the essence behind the companies. Nike is about excellence. It's about striving for excellence. It's about being better. It's making sure that every man, woman, and child can be the best that they can be. Yeah, they sell clothing. Yeah, they sell shoes. But it's a company based on a philosophy of excellence. Apple is a company about innovation. It's not about the Apple computer. Yes, they're into all sorts of technology now, and because they're about innovation and they're about being cutting edge and being that new trendy thing, their people are willing to accept, hey, listen, there's Apple Pay. What does Apple Pay have to do with Apple computers? But they're willing to accept that because it's part of the brand of Apple. So the avatar, the colors and all that, they're important because they register in people's minds. They sit there, oh, that's Apple. Okay, I know what Apple means and I know what it stands for because I look at the logo. But that's not, the logo is not the brand. They're very separate. It's a way for you to have reach and recall and remembrance of what the brand really is.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you see the logo, suddenly you think of the brand.
Exactly.
Apple, and you think of innovation and computers. Yeah. Okay, so what are the parts that go together to build a strong brand?
The parts that go to build a strong brand really come down to everybody in the company understanding what's the essence of the company. What's the three, I call it the three-legged stool.
Right.
And if one of those legs were to break, would you fall down? What are the three things that this company is about? And every company is different. But what are the essence? What's the core of the company? What are the things that you do that are different from everybody else? What do you believe in? What's the hill that you're willing to die on? And that's what your brand is built off of, because that's your basis. That's your foundation. And if you can understand that first and foremost, then you can build a brand. Your brand, evolves from there. It's from this is what we do that's different from our competitors. This is what we stand for. This is what we believe. And if you need to be able to answer those questions before you can go any further, because if you can't answer those questions, you haven't got the essence of the brand. It's Simon Sinek. It's why. Why do we do what we do? And that's where every brand needs to begin.
Well, it sounds like, oh, right, we can do that, but there's a whole lot more behind it.
Well, there is. I mean, it's sitting down and saying, who are the customers that you believe in? Who are our customers? How do they want to be communicated with? What's the story that we want to tell them? And then we get into the marketing of the brand. We get into, what mediums are make sense for our customers. What are the things that we need to be able to say and do? And for a brand to succeed, it needs to be consistent. Whether it's your personal brand or your corporate brand, you need to be the same brand wherever you are. You may tell your story slightly differently on Snapchat than you will on LinkedIn, than you will on Facebook, than you will on YouTube. But the essence of the story is always the same. The value statement is always the same. The message is always similar. And that's very important for companies to understand that, it's that consistency of the brand that leads to the power of the brand.
And then from the customer's point of view, they know what the brand provides or represents.
Well, look at Starbucks or look at McDonald's or look at any international brand.
Yeah.
You can go pretty much anywhere in the world and order a Big Mac and you know exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah.
There are, I don't think you're going to get a Big Mac in India, but, there are going to be cultural differences in certain places. I lived in Israel. I can't remember if there are actually McDonald's in Israel, but the Big Mac's going to be a kosher meat. They're certainly not going to have meat and cheese, and there's definitely not going to be any bacon. But, there's different cultural differences based on location. But in essence, when you go into any, McDonald's anywhere in the world and order, a Big Mac is a Big Mac is a Big Mac.
Yeah,
and that's part of what it is. And you're going to sit there and say, I come to this brand because I know it's always going to be the same. And it's that comfort. It's understanding that brands make people feel comfortable because they know that no matter where they are, no matter what they do, that brand is going to be consistent. Starbucks is perfect for that. If you go to a Starbucks anywhere, you can sit down and you can get Wi-Fi, and if you got a gold card, you get your free refills of your coffee, and they're going to have comfy chairs, and that they're going to have places for you to plug in your laptop. And there's a consistency based on that brand. Yes. That people sit there and say, because the brand is all about welcoming people into their environment. And that comes down to, they built that out to an entire process that evolves into their customer experience. And their brand and their customer experience evolve into how they relate to every single customer. So brand consistency, whether it's online, offline, doesn't matter the language, doesn't matter the country, it's a matter of making people understand that your brand is what your brand is, no matter where and how they see it.
Yeah. And that's a very good point you raise about brand and the customer experience. They're sort of tightly linked, aren't they?
They have to be. They absolutely have to be, because your customer experience is based on your brand. You need to understand, because you have to sit there and say, this is what we believe. This is how we believe we should treat our employees. This is how we believe we should treat our customers. This is how we believe we show up in the world. This is what, this is how we think that people should be taken care of. This is how we act in any one of these situations. That's all part of the brand and part of the culture. And that evolves into the customer experience. So when you go into a Walmart, there's a greeter there saying, hi, how are you? Welcoming you into a Walmart. There's all those little things. If you look at, if you really want to, look at brand, look at Disney. If you want the king of brand and the king of customer experience, look at Disney. They have a university built on their brand experience. It's a matter of looking at things and going, okay, how do we make sure that our customers know every time they touch us and every time we touch them that it's us? And it couldn't be anybody but us. If they closed their eyes and walked into one of our locations and we're walking around, would they know that it was a McDonald's, or would they know that it was a Starbucks, or would they know where they were based on the smells and the way they're greeted and the experience that's brought to them?
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so the follow-on question is, does a brand, and is it something that develops and grows with the company?
Yeah, I call it a living brand. I'm a big believer of a living brand. We are who we are based upon the experiences that have brought us up to that point in time.
Yes.
As your experiences change, as your company changes, as your customers' needs changes, your brand will shift. It's not something that every 15 minutes your brand shifts, but over time, over decades, over quarter centuries, over half centuries, whatever, your brand will evolve. And you need to be able to be aware of that and realize, is my brand still relevant? Is the brand of what I'm saying and how I'm saying it and what I believe, is it still congruent with where we are today?
Yes.
And you need to be able to sit there and say, okay, how has the company evolved? How has our customers evolved? How has our processes evolved? And is our brand still relevant? And if the answer is no, the question is why? And have you strayed from your brand? And therefore there's a brand disconnect, and therefore all the clients that were loyal to you in the past are no longer loyal to you, and you're sitting there losing money because you've strayed away from where your brand is. Or have you evolved as a company? You're doing different things, you're successful, but what you believed in the past or what you thought were important in the past, your needs and your wants and your desires and the needs, wants, desires of your customers have changed, and therefore the brand needs to evolve with it. So it's being conscious of it. It's being conscious of there's change. For instance, 12 years ago, when I started out, the name of my company was CMYK Solutions. Why? CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black.
Oh,
The
yeah.
4 colors that make up all printing. Okay, when I was in direct mail, when I was doing a lot of promotional marketing, when I was doing a lot of that kind of stuff, the name made sense. It absolutely made sense. But as I started realizing that I was spending more time on brand and the storytelling and internal communication, the name didn't make sense anymore. What I did and how I did it and the customers that I was talking to and how I was talking to customers changed. And therefore, the company changed to Your Brand Marketing, because what we do is we talk about your brand. Today, we focus on internal communication, how to engage, how to retain, how to grow employees, how to build better leaders, how to tell that story and that brand story within the company so employees understand what the value of the brand is to them and how they're valuable to the brand itself. That's what we do. That never would have worked with the name CMYK Solutions. So, as we change, as our customers change, as our thought process changed, as our offering changed, we needed to rebrand in order to do that. And sometimes it's a tweak. Sometimes it's just a shift to the left, a shift to the right. And sometimes it's, what? We need to tear this brand down and we need to build something brand new. But you need to make sure that you take people along with you. There's a great, on my website, on yourbrandmarketing.com, there's a great ebook that we wrote called Define Your Story, Branding Step by Step.
Right.
And it's about the journey of changing a brand, how to change your brand, how to take a look at your brand and sit there and say, is this the brand that, who we are? Have we changed? And these are the things that you should be thinking about as you're rebranding a company.
Yeah.
So it really helps people along that journey.
Fantastic. Ben, our last question is, what can owners do to improve their brand?
I think the best thing they can do to improve their brand is to make sure the people inside their company understand their brand. If that brand message is tight, it's consistent, and there's a story that resonates with everybody. Because if people inside your company truly understand your brand, all of a sudden people go to meetings and they say, well, wait a second, why are we doing this? It doesn't resonate with our brand. It doesn't resonate with our brand story. It's not congruent. Why are we doing this? Or if we're going in a different direction as a company, is that congruent with our brand? Does this make sense with our brand? Yes or no? And if it's no, the question is, well, why are we doing it? When you're dealing with your customers, being able to understand your brand gives you the ability to have that story with your customers and say, look, this is what we do, but this is not what we don't do. Yeah. And it's almost as important, especially within, companies like mine, consulting companies, to say, you know what, we don't do that, but let me refer you to somebody who does. Because what you've done is you've told your customer, this is what we do. This is our wheelhouse. This is our jam. This is what we're really, really good at. And we're going to stick doing the stuff we're really good at. And we're going to refer you to people we know that do other things better than we do.
Yeah.
And what that does is that elevates your brand. Instead of being a jack of all trades, instead of saying we do everything and we can do everything that you want, then all of a sudden people say, well, what do they specialize in? What are they good at? But you say, you know what? We swing left-handed hammers, and that's all we do. You know, then people get to say, hey, listen, if I need a left-handed hammer swung, these are the guys that do it. And I'm going to pay extra to have them do it, but we know it's going to get done right.
Yes, yeah. So really work to really be clear about what you offer and keep the consistency there.
Yeah. And it helps define yourself, and quite honestly, it makes you more valuable. You know, because if all of a sudden you are the expert in whatever you are, if you can really narrow the focus and say, this is what our brand is specifically about, and this is exactly what we do, then you can charge more to do it because you are that expert. If you can position yourself as the expert in this, then all of a sudden those pricing, those 3 quotes, that RFP that you have to answer goes away because you say, no, we are the people that do this, and that's all we do. And it really helps you define what are the jobs that you want and what are the jobs you don't want, and helps you go after the jobs that are far more profitable for you as a company.
Fantastic. Oh, well, Ben, you've given us so much food for thought and great advice, and certainly the importance of your brand story is that comes through time and time again. So thank you so much for joining us.
Adrian, it's been a pleasure being on the show. Thanks for having me.
Okay.